are going to go ahead and get started. People may be joining us a little late, but that's all right. But yeah, like Saul said, this is Mitch. He's from the 3D Institute. We're super grateful to have him with us today. He has coached D1 wrestling at Purdue University, so that's how he's kind of connected here to Indiana. He served as a delegate on many Olympic games. I think it was 6 games that you've served as the Olympic delegate for wrestling. So Mitch has got a lot of experience coaching at a lot of different levels, serving at a lot of different levels. So we're thankful to have him today. Thank you for being here, Mitch.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Blair, Debbie, for doing this. I think as I get started here, I want to explain, and you did mention it earlier, but the mission of 3D coaching is to transform sport through a transformed coach. My role, I see within 3D, is I spend most of the time working with athletic administrators, and I'll point out the importance of that at the end, because the vision is to build a culture in sport that students want to be a part of that will impact lives. That's the vision, and I state that that's not easy or difficult. It's intentional. And so we teach the structure of how do you do this intentionally, and we do this, the bulk of this, the backbone of it is our 3D coaching certification course. That is because the education is to the coach, which will have the impact at the school. And with this being kind of FCA structured, I want for the people outside the FCA, and even for some inside of it, because this was brought into the FCA originally, but without a clear direction of what to do and how to use it. And so it is three-dimensional coaching wouldn't be here without the FCA, because the 3 individuals that built this, one my twin brother and Wes Simmons and Jeff Duke, were on staff. And the FCA allowed them to go out and separately build this while they were on staff. This was built to be a values education, not a Christian one, a values one, not a faith-based, because we know if we're going to build it as a faith-based, then what this is just another great tool for the FCA for the Christian coach. We want to reach, and part of the FCA's mission in that statement is to reach every coach, not just Christian coaches, every coach. And so here's the, as this will be the last part of this, talking about the faith part, because as we do, when we get the opportunity to do the in-person workshop, you will have no idea that it was built by these Christian individuals, because we're going to honor the laws of the land, and that is the separation of church and state, and we can do that through this, because the easy way to explain this is that the mission of the FCA is to use sport to bring people to Christ. 3-dimensional coaching would be this: what would sport look like if Jesus was the coach? See, I don't need to quote chapter and verse. How hard would we work? How would we treat other people? How would we treat our team? How do we treat teammates, our coach? All of these things are what we would call best practices. And best practices are there because of that, whether you are a Christian or not. See, we want coaches to be not transactional, we want them to be transformational. Let's not confuse transformation with salvation. Those are entirely different. And so, can a person who's not a Christian be a transformational coach? Say, I point out this way, well, we know what the greatest motivator is. Greatest motivator, and I tell you, if you don't know, the greatest motivator would be, who would you die for? And it always comes back to, well, the people I love. You think atheists don't love their children? Of course they do. Hopefully over time, we get to understand, to ask, well, where do these values come from? There's where the FCA comes in. But outside of that, this is a values-based education to impact to try to reach and impact every athlete. For you, we are in, my twin brother was in 8 or 9 different countries in the last 4 months of the year. In fact, he was probably on the last flight on Dubai back to the United States at the beginning of March. And what we're seeing is, and he's pointed this out, he sat down with a group of parents at an English-speaking school in Egypt. And he said it might as well have been anywhere USA, because it's the same issues. And it makes sense that it would be. Now, there's some things that are much worse over there. In fact, we have been invited, Art got invited to go to North Korea with this. And I have been to Iran multiple times with wrestling. And I told him that I wouldn't go to North Korea. I would go to Iran 10 times before I go to North Korea once. And then I thought, if he doesn't come back, that's one less to split up the inheritance with. And then I go, heck, if God's calling you, you probably should go. I'm going to get that cabin up north somehow. But that just tells you how important this is around the world. And what I'm going to do is I want to share a screen with you. Let me know, can you guys see this? Screen's up, great. Because 3D coaching, and I could have put this up earlier because we start out, 3D coaching is basically this. We want to create a framework of coaching built on a foundation of purpose. It is a framework to coach. And I will explain that a little bit farther because there's a difference between being a program and a framework. And you guys, I saw earlier, you went over these initially. Get this. Here's what you say. You asked this question. Why do you coach? These are Joe Ehrman's, and Blair brought we stole this from Joe Ehrman, Inside Out Coaching. See, there's a difference. In the education world, if you steal something, it's called plagiarism. In the sport world, if you steal something, it's called coaching. Right? So there's plenty of resources out there that are really good. But the question is, why do you coach? Then it's a little slow here with this, but give me a second to load this up. But you went over these 3 questions. This was, why do you coach? Why do you coach the way that you coach? I had to get this in because that's Will Ferrell for you people. And that second picture over there, he's actually doing something right. I'm not sure the first one is, but the second one, he's getting down to the level of the person he's talking to, eye to eye. But why do you coach the way that you coach? And then certainly, this is one that's really important. And we don't think about what does it feel like to be coached by you? Because I say people will forget what you say. They will never forget how you made them feel. In fact, what is the importance of coaches in education? Because this is where I think that this is where we're leading this. U.S. Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, the man in charge of education, not sport, has said, I can make the case the most important educators are coaches. And what most consider extracurricular is absolutely vital. It's the man in charge of education. Here's my first statement when I get with principals and superintendents. It's almost always this. I go, your coaches are the greatest asset that you have in education today, and likely the least trained in the areas they can have the greatest impact. So when I went to coach, I was the head coach for wrestling at Purdue University at 31 years of age. So I was training, I competed, wrestled on a couple of U.S. world teams. I knew techniques and tactics, strategy, skills, the drills. I knew that. But who taught me how to motivate? Who taught you how to motivate or to build team cohesion? Let alone the issues in the third dimension about significance and worth. The best, right now, you'd say the best that coaching is an apprenticeship. But you don't know how good the person you were learning is. Many times you get the question, well, why are you doing it like that? And it's because it's the way I was coached, or it's because it's the way we've always done it. It's not a good enough answer. It might still be the right thing to do, but you need to know why. That's the why questions up there. And my years I look back fondly at my years at Purdue University. I left, it was my choice to leave to go to the Olympic world, but my third season I was there 4 years as head coach, the third year, we finished 7th in the nation. It's the best that Purdue Wrestling has finished now in nearly 70 years. And yet, every time that comes up, it's a negative thought for me. Because we took 7th and we did it without our best wrestler. See, in December of his senior year, he beat that year's NCAA champion. His 5th year, December, the NCAAs are in March. He beats that guy. He's the number 1 ranked person in the country. And he quit. Walked away in December, 3 months before the end of the year. And I still remember the last conversation I had with him. It was, Mike, you've got an alcohol problem. Those were my last words as he was getting in his car and leaving. See, I always thought of myself, even now, as a 3D coach. All we did, we didn't make 3D coaches. We just created a language and a structure. My problem was I didn't have the clarity of purpose and then the tools to make it happen. And I realized Mike didn't have an alcohol problem. Mike had a self-esteem problem. It just manifested itself with alcohol. See, he was a big, strong man, but lack of better words, people understand language. He was maybe sometimes you call a bit of a meathead. He'd say something that was, you go, holy smoke, how do you, and he'd get, his teammates, he'd get lightheartedly teased. But imagine being on the receiving end all the time of being lightheartedly teased. I said, what it was death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's still death. See, I didn't know what to do or understand what to do or even understand the issue until later. I didn't know how to put him in a position to succeed or didn't even realize that's what I should be doing. And so every time people talk about that 7th place in the NCAAs, that's not a positive thing for me. I'm happy for the result, but what it does is it always brings that memory up, and I want to help people so they don't have that. We want to provide the tools and the resources. Now, I will say this, Mike is still responsible for himself. But as a coach, if I'd have put him in a better situation, he may not have had to deal with what he was. And that's my failure. It's about not having those failures. We need to educate people because I said, we're the most important people in education today, and research will back that up, and I'll back that up shortly. There's no group that has greater impact in education than coaches do. But do we think of ourselves that way? When we think of that opportunity, we have an unbelievable opportunity in that world. And we call it, it's the importance of guides. And I took 3 months ago, I did a 4.5-hour webinar on how to be a better writer. And Donald Miller, he's the guy who wrote Blue Like Jazz in that movie, if you may recognize that, great leader in the business world. And we spent the whole time, and he made the case that for the last 2,000 years, all of society, everything could be told as a story. And life is told as a story if you want to get it across. And in stories, what do you have? You have, a story has a hero. It's got villains. There's a storyline, a plot. There's those in distress or that need saving. I mean, you can put everything around that. But there's one more that's hugely important. It's guides. See, you don't have Daniel without Mr. Miyagi. Right? You don't have Luke Skywalker without Yoda. Right? And you know darn well that Mr. Miyagi didn't just work with Daniel. He's a coach. Now, we're not talking about perfect human beings. I don't know if everybody here, if you haven't seen The Karate Kid, the first one, you don't need the rest of them. But Mr. Miyagi was a flawed human being. He lost his wife. I mean, there was one scene where he was stumbling drunk that Daniel, he had to help him get home. But without them, you don't have heroes. So when I tell superintendents and principals, and I get done with that statement, that your coach is the greatest resource you have in education today, and likely the least trained in the areas they can have the greatest impact. Well, they're in a position of changing that. So let's train them. We want our athletes to be heroes. If you want your athletes to be heroes, we do a lot of these things like athlete leadership training. You get somebody out for the team, and that's good. I don't say that negatively. That's good. But what you're doing is you're individually training an athlete, and when that athlete graduates, they're gone. You want to have real impact? Train your guides. Spend the resources, the impact, and trade your guides, because your guides will be training all your athletes. They'll set the culture, and we talked with the FCA has, what they call in character coaches. Going to school and they kind of be character, and that's good. But if the coaches aren't in line with what you're doing, then you've got a confused athlete. If one program, and I will use this, I knew in my hometown, we were 0-10 2 years ago in football. They brought this in, and the principal said, every coach in this school, his solution was this: I'm not firing them. You know who failed in this area? Principal said, I failed because I didn't provide them the training. Instead of firing people, let's train them. They brought a 3D, and he goes, every coach in this school will be 3D certified by next year, or they're not coaching. And they haven't lost one coach because of it. They all went through it. In fact, his statement was that he owned is, you don't have to be a 3D coach to coach. You just can't coach here. So that's a pretty good statement. See, he's decided to train his guides. And when you train your guides, you can change a school, because what do guides do? Anybody know who this person is, this coach? If you're not sure, I say, look at the word on his shirt and see if you can remember. Yeah, remember the title. This is my favorite movie. I don't rewatch movies. I watch this one every time it's on. See, we talk about training guides. Herman Boone passed away in December of last year. The other coach there was Bill Yost, who passed away 6 months before that. And when I read about Herman Boone, here's what they said: that Herman Boone and this team did more for the integration of schools and education in Alexandria, Virginia, than Brown versus the Board of Education ever did. Now, see, here's the thing. Brown versus the board is the what. And you have to have what. See, Brown versus the board said you can't do what you did anymore. But this did more than Brown versus the board because this was the why. This was a black and a white coach putting a team together like this, and they saw the value and the impact and the worth everybody was, not based on how much melatonin was in their skin. What was, as Dr. King said, the content of their character. You can make people do what? Until you get them to understand why. See, what is a behavior modification? Why is a heart transformation? See, there's no bully. You can go and empower volleyball and say, hey, there's no bullying on our team. You bully somebody on this team, and you're gone. So they won't bully them. That's behavior modification. But when they go to their school, are they still bullying kids? They just didn't do it there. We want to have a heart transformation. That's what changes things. That's the power of the coach. That's why. Here's why that I say you're the greatest asset you have in education. It's this right here. We call it the impact triangle. And we have, my brother created this with a guy when they were overseas with three-dimensional coaching in Ukraine and sitting there waiting, and they created this. See, in the three corners of the impact triangle, there's information. Information impacts knowledge. Experience impacts wisdom. But influence impacts culture. See, now we help you understand your role so we understand ours. Our role is this. 3D coaching, we are guides. See, we can't impact culture. Because to have influence in culture, you have to be in it. We're not in it. So what do? We take the experience and information that leads to wisdom and knowledge, and we drive the knowledge and wisdom to influencers. We're the athletic directors and coaches. You're the influencers. But who influences culture in a school? Teachers don't. Coaches don't. You're not in the culture. Who's in the culture? Athletes. Athletes have more ability to impact culture. In fact, they do already, good or bad. Because they are, what you have is, they're the enfranchised. Because they're told, and the society tells them this, all society, if you're bigger, faster, stronger, you're better. That's the message. Here's what we want to do. This is our message with this, how we're going to help you coach. If you're bigger, faster, stronger, you're not better, but you got a platform. Let's teach them how to use it. And if you don't understand, if you didn't understand that before, you should understand it now, because what's going on right now in society, who has the largest platform? Who are we hearing from more in society than anybody else? Whether they're saying the right things or not. Athletes have the platform. And we have to teach them how to use it. So what you are, your biggest role is a guide. For us, you're heroes. You're the heroes because our significance at 3D is your success. See, we're guides to you, but your biggest role is not as a hero, it's as a guide, because you're going to take the wisdom and knowledge you have and take it to the influencers, the athletes. We do that. We change culture in a school. And educational research points out one of the best things you can do to impact test scores at a school is improve school culture. I don't know, well, who can do that? Athletes. And who impacts athletes? Coaches. This is why coaches are the greatest resource we have in education, the greatest asset. We just haven't trained them or used them that way. We're going to quickly go through this. How do we do this? Because if you haven't, this is in the online course, but this is the three-dimensional pyramid. And we're all three-dimensional beings. And we put it in sport language, it's a skill set, mindset, and heart set. And Blair had said before, our statement is by not coaching in all three definitions is simply not, by definition, not getting the best you can get out of your athlete. Most coaches, here's the first dimension that we have, and we all understand strength, power, speed, quickness, techniques, tactics, all these things. These are first dimension is physical, and it's the base. And by the way, you have to be good at this. We never discount this. If you're not good at this, you aren't even going to get to the mind and the heart. You got no credibility. The issue is we're not struggling in this area, and if we do, it's easy to find the information. We've got that out there, which is why we say it's important to spend no time on it, because it's sports specific. My son-in-law is the head strength coach at the University of South Carolina Gamecocks for football. Right? And we're sometimes we get arrogant in wrestling. More than sometimes, but we can get that. And I remember is that we say, hey, a football player couldn't last 3 minutes on a wrestling mat. You know what his response to me was? You're right. I'm not training him to wrestle. I'm training him to play football. He's right. See, that's sports specific here. And you have to be great at this. And by the way, you can win. You can win championships only coaching in this level. But you'll have a trail of damaged relationships if that's where you stay. My daughter's softball coach at Georgia Tech, 20 years. But I liked the guy. I really did. But he didn't value second, third. He ended up being at a school where in 11 years, he took them to 10 regional championships, 3 college World Series, and they fired him. And I've kept in touch with him. In fact, I was with him a week ago. He's an AD now, and I got him to go through this. Initially, he said, Mitch, I understand this, but kids today, they've had it too easy. You got to be tough. You got to be hard. And I wrote him back. I said, Aaron, I want you to understand something. I go, we're not telling people how to coach. I have no desire to tell somebody how to coach. Our purpose is to help you do what you do better. I don't care the volume. I care about the words. If you're a yeller, I'm not going to tell you you can't yell. But what are you saying? Are you coaching or are you venting? These are the questions that I got him to go through this, and it's been completely transformational for him. Now they've got every coach going through this in his district. And a week and a half ago, when I was down there, I had lunch with him, and he asked me if he should tell this. And I said, absolutely. Just like you need to hear from Will what his story is. I said, Aaron, your story's the most powerful thing you got. And he got done. When I got done with the workshop, they said, these coaches are going to go through it. He said this. He goes, if I would have had this, I'd still be coaching. See, when I became a coach, I was going to be the best hitting coach. By the way, my daughter said there's nobody even close to him. They still got, 20 years later, all their team has all the school records in hitting. The best fielding coach and the best tactical coach. And he said, and that's what I was. And it cost me my job because I didn't value the other parts. He said, I didn't, at that point, and said, I never had a coach like that. Because the second dimension is this. These are the social ones, the motivation, confidence, all of these things. Do you understand Who's trained you to build team cohesion? Do you understand the emotional matrix? These are all part of the course. In maybe 20% of the coaches that from our research coach something intentionally at this level, meaning if you went to their practice, you would see them doing something that was intentional about team cohesion. Third dimension, identity, characteristics. See, the second dimension ones are general, meaning if I could build team cohesion on a softball team, I could do it on a football team. They're general, but this is universal. I get to their identity, character, and their value, purpose. I affect everything in their life. Do we know how to coach this? By the way, if you don't, sport is. Sport is coaching this level. Because if we don't intentional, because what does sport value? Winning. Sport values winning. And how it gets me to winning will determine if that's, I point it this way, I throw this on to, when I was with USA Wrestling, we had a mission statement. It was to help athletes reach their full human and athletic potential. We wanted to win. There's 6, I'll just use one of the styles. There's 6 gold medals, 6 weights in men's freestyle. We wanted to win 6 gold medals. That was our goal. Now Russia, their goal was to win 6 gold medals too. You know what their purpose was? Win 6 gold medals. So if your purpose and your goals are the same, then whatever you do to get there doesn't matter. You will pay off a referee. You will pay the Cuban after the Cuban wins his first gold medal. They'll sell the next one for about $40,000. I've seen it happen. And so they'll pay the guy $40,000 because if your purpose is to win 6, you're not violating it. If our purpose is to help somebody reach their full human and athletic potential, we can't reach their human potential when we're buying the title for them. So our purpose, and here's the thing, is if you get into the tough decisions, which you always will, your purpose statement's only words if you defer to your goal. Then your goal is your purpose. We want to help people coach in this level. And the longer you're in sport, the bigger these things come into play. In the Olympic world, we actually deal with a real thing called post-Olympic depression. Because when you're done with it, everything was focused. That's it. That's it. You get done with it, whether you get your gold medal or not. That next day, my whole focus in life is gone because that was my identity. It's very hard when you go at that level to keep saying, wrestling and winning that gold medal is what I do. It's not who I am. But everything you get up to do is focused on winning the gold medal. But you have that issue in school too, and a lot of it's driven by parents. Their identity is in their child. And we have a course with regard to that as well. I call Aligning the Coach and Parent Partnership. Because if you're going to build team cohesion, you can't build team cohesion without parents. They've got to be part of it. We want to help you as a coach understand this, that if, comes to parents, I always put it this way, I know how I treat the parents based on what my purpose is. If I'm sitting there and if Debbie were up there and it's going to say, right now I'm going to give you some tools. Debbie's the one speaking up there and give you some tools on working with your parents. And I'm sitting there going, great, man, I need some tools to help me manage parents. Kelsey's sitting right next to me and going, great, I need some tools to help me partner with parents. Who's going to do a better job with the same tool? See, if I'm managing parents, they're a liability. If I'm partnering with them, they're an asset. If you look at parents as liabilities, that's what you'll get. If you look at parents as assets, that's what you get. That's our responsibility, and we need to help train them as well. This is our structure, but it's based on this. As we get back, this is why it's a framework. It's based on, in the stuff Blair's had, we talk about transformational purpose statement. We're kind of moving away from transformational because it's the foundation of what you do. So we're going to be starting to call it, it's your foundational purpose statement. Why do you coach? I coach wrestling to build young men that will impact society for good while valuing and enjoying their journey through sport. That was my purpose, coach. See, when I could now, if it came down to one of my guys got in trouble and I could justify having them wrestle because it was going to help me win, and that wasn't my foundational purpose after all, was it? Winning was. See, it helps bring clarity to tough decisions. Still makes tough decisions tough. They're tough because they're tough, but you can do them clear. And then what we do is we build a framework. See, 3D coaching is not a program. It's a framework to coach. And we provide tools to help you with that. I haven't given you a tool yet because I don't know your foundation, your framework. It's like this, we could call them apps. I'm not interested in giving somebody an app until I know what their operating system is. So it may not work very well, it may not fit. Right? We need to create the foundation, and what we have is what I want you to think of 3D coaching is we're not tools to put on shelves. Shelves. Now you can get tools from any place. Now I can go watch Carol Dweck's TED Talk on mindset and see how that's going to help me in my second dimension, things with regard to motivation and confidence in that third dimension on significance of worth. It's no longer, we're going to do Carol Dweck's program now. No, Carol Dweck's going to give me tools. It's your purpose, your framework, and now we just keep putting tools on the shelves. And when you know where tools fit, you will use them better. You will use them better when you know where they fit. And now you can go and watch Trevor Reagan's Train Ugly and see how it works, what fits. And you can do all of these other things out there because there's great resources. Tremendous resources out there beyond us. They're tools. And we're going to be selling, and we're working with a lot of these other ones to bring them in so that we can provide you with tools. But my role, this is where this is where you can help. Here's where you help if you're at a school. Or if you're an FCA leader and you've got contact with an AD, and you can say, hey, I've got something you can work with that aligns with what I have, but it's completely, it's a non-religious product. It's a values-based educational resource. Because we want to help build intentional culture to impact the school and community. See, individually, you can do this. And I'm thrilled when that happens. But individually, you cannot lead culture. Individually, you have impact. And that's great. And we want to help you have, we tell coaches, thank you for providing this to help your coaches have maximize their impact on and off the field of play. That's what you can do. But you can't lead culture by yourself. What you are is counterculture, because everybody else is doing it this other way. We want to bring this together so to create culture. Intentional culture requires a community of coaches. Right? You have to have a community of coaches. You can't do it individually. Right? To be a community, you have to have a shared language and a common purpose. Go to Russia and you don't speak Russian. See how you feel like you're part of the community because you don't speak the language. Every leadership program I've been a part of, language has always been one of the key things. You can't share knowledge if you can't put it into words. And you have to have a common purpose. To get that, there has to be a baseline of knowledge. Right? And that's education. 3D coaching, our coaching course, creates the baseline of knowledge that now has a shared language and common purpose, which builds a community of coaches that will lead the intentional culture. And next year, when 4 new coaches join the school, they take the online course so that they get the baseline of knowledge, to have the language, to be part of the community, to continue the culture. Now you have a sustainable operating system that will lead culture not the next program that you can use to have impact in a certain area. That's what we try to build. That's what our purpose is. And how difficult is it? Well, I can give you something that can that you could do as soon as you have the next in-person practice. I used to say you can do this tomorrow, but not until you get everybody back together. But the next practice, you want to build team cohesion? My graduate assistant coach, Kenny, one time he goes, Coach, hey, I want our guys to shake hands after every practice. Yeah, okay. And then we got done, everybody shake hands, and I got upset. I got upset because I wasted 2 decades. Wasted 2 decades on a tool that was so simple. Because and you're part of the group too, because when a guy comes from across the practice field to the restroom and shakes your hand and goes, hey, thanks, coach, you feel better. I've seen the impact it had. And I've literally asked my adult, I'm 63, I've asked my teammates, hey, what would have mattered if we shook hands after practice? You shook hands with Lee Kemp, and Lee was our teammate who was a 3-time world champion, and he's the star. I got 63-year-olds going, yeah, it would have. See, what happens is your athlete that's not very good is shaking hands with the star every day. And what does that mean? We did this together. We did this together. It's another thing to keep the kid out that doesn't get to play very much. Here's my language. I took a while to get I know what I want to say, but I get that question all the time. And I go, then I got it. It was this. You want to keep a kid out that doesn't play? How do you do that? You dignify the least. You dignify him. Well, shaking hands with the star athlete is dignifying him. It wasn't hard. That's what I say. It wasn't easy or it wasn't difficult. It was intentional. Now I'll take that tool one step farther. What if at the end of practice and you see that one kid has struggled, has done terrible, and I'll just say my sport, you're a freshman and you're getting your rear end handed to you in practice, getting beat up. It is, sport is physical. All sport's physical. And it just wasn't going very well. And when it's time to shake hands just before the end of practice, you go to your star athlete and you say, hey, Jimmy had a tough practice. When you shake his hands, tell him you're proud of him. And when the star athlete goes and say, hey, Jimmy, I heard it was a tough day today. Man, I don't know if I could have done what you did. Hang in there, stud. We need you. You think Jimmy's quitting? There ain't a chance in the world he's quitting because he's dignified for who he is, not what he's doing. That's not difficult. And I always say, who do you think is going to get the most out of that? Your star athlete. Your star athlete starts to see their impact. Instead of being the boss, they're a leader. See, we have to teach them how to do this, and that's what our research, that's one thing you could do. I can't say tomorrow anymore, but as soon as you have your first in-person practice, you say, we're shaking hands every day with everybody, because it matters. So here we are with what we got. That I've got how you contact me. That's about as recent a picture as I have of myself. Okay, it's as you've seen it's pretty close. It's maybe 40 years old, I guess, but hey, I'm going to use that picture till I die, right? But this is this is where people can go. You can direct any leadership to our website. And it's got where to go, where to access, what we can do, but have them contact, because we've got our resources. We've got a free administrators course. The coaching certification course is our baseline. And we provide that to administrators for free. We want them to see what we have. You can take it for college credit. I just talked about we have aligning the coach and parent partnership. I don't judge where anybody's at in that. That's individual, but Syracuse research has shown that nearly 60% of high school coaches have considered quitting because of parents. It's broken. And we can fix it. And when I say we, coaches, it's our responsibility. And we go through 25 modules, or it's like a 2-hour course on how do you change this? How do you lead it? And then we've got one really for leadership, shaping culture using a 3D framework, because culture is in one of 4 stages. It's either survival, stability, success, and significance. In one of 4 stages in that culture. And I came out of the Olympic world, and we are phenomenal at success. We're not very good at significance because we're not set up for seeing. You're a star, you're an elite athlete, and you want to get great. We'll get you every resource we can to be great, to be successful. Because we want to teach coaches goals are important, right? Goals are important, but I want you to, if that's all that matters, if winning is all that matters, see goals, when you accomplish a goal, it's rewarding. You want a state championship, it's rewarding. You go out and run a mile at a pace better than what you thought, that's rewarding. Okay? But you got to do it again. Dan Gable, who is, if you don't know wrestling, you may have heard of Dan Gable. He's an Olympic champion, won 10 NCAA championships, 25 straight Big Ten titles in wrestling. He's a legend. Dan Gable said, I wish I had the prop here. I used to have the, Dan Gable goes, if you win a tournament, they ought to give you a green banana. That's the award, should be a green banana. What you do is you take that banana to school and you show, and you can use this for you show your friends, right? That banana, you take a picture of it and send it off to grandma and grandpa, right? You put it up on your mantle. Have us later, but by the time that banana turns black, it's time to win another banana. That's how fleeting success is. It's rewarding, but impacting lives, that's significance. Significance is fulfilling. And that's what we want people to do, is to understand that let's get the significance in your coaching. We do workshops, but I appreciate everybody's time. I look forward to coming whenever Debbie and Blair can get this worked out, because what I'll talk about there will be different than here. I'll have some of this. There's a lot of other things I'd love to talk about and provide some more tools to. This is about the why and creating a culture. The other one's going to be about having impact as you as an individual coach. Appreciate your time. I'm probably a few minutes longer, but I stayed under that. We're done in less than an hour. Certainly, Kelsey, please say hi to Will and tell him when we get done, I'm going to contact him because I'd love to hear more of his story. And if anybody's got questions or say, I'll hang around I have 9.5 minutes before I have to head to volleyball practice.
Well, I will definitely tell him that, Mitch. And thank you so much for what you shared. I mean, there's so much that you said today that already is jumping out at me. And I'm thinking about how it can be applied, with my girls. And so I really appreciate your time too.
Yeah, if people, if they want to contact me and they need to know what I look like, let me know. I'll send them that picture, not the current one.
I love it.
Yeah, and Mitch, thanks so much for what you shared today. And what Mitch alluded to, we were scheduled to have a August 9th coaching clinic with Mitch. Would be in person and live stream. Unfortunately, with the new COVID requirements, our venue has had to start some outside services. We lost our entire tech team, and it seems like schools are being delayed. And so we are not canceling the coaching clinic, but we are forced to delay it. So we'll keep an eye on where the coaches are and how the schools are opening. And we hope to have a new date for you soon, at least by September 1st, once we see where this whole thing is going to play out. So again, thank you, Mitch, so much. And thank you all for joining us today. Mitch is going to stay on for a little bit. We're actually going to try to record some sound bites as a promotion too for the upcoming coaches clinic, but good luck in your upcoming seasons. I hope that it can be as normal as possible in today's environment, but certainly that when we are back to normal, that I'm looking forward to using the advice from Mitch and the 3D coaching guidelines and format. So thank you guys so much. And think we're okay to pray us out today. So let me say a short prayer as we leave our time together. Dear Lord, thank you for this time we can come together and learn how to be a three-dimensional coach. Thank you for the last 3 weeks too that were led by Blair, and today by Mitch. And just pray that you give us the wisdom in carrying this forward and being a truly transformational coach as we move forward in our upcoming seasons. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen. All right.